We're back with part 2 of the inexpensive track cleaning car. This is the disassembly portion of it. And right now we have, this is the way it comes from the factory. We're looking at an Atlas 40-foot airslide hopper. Now, you don't have to use this, and it doesn't have to be by Atlas. This is just an inexpensive car from the Trainman series. And it doesn't have a lot of detail that you can break off, so that makes it easier to handle. And you can also add the detail yourself later on. This is the way it comes, so we're going to open up the box, and we're basically going to throw away the box. We don't need that anymore. Let me grab that. Okay, this is the way the car comes from the factory. It's relatively light. In fact, it's a bit too light for my taste. And it has, I believe, the McHenry couplers on it. And so what we're going to do, the first thing for disassembly is we're going to take the roof off. And that's very easy. It slides right out. We don't need to modify this, so we're going to set that aside. And this is what the inside of the car looks like. You've got a metal weight that we're going to pry out. But taking the roof off gives us a relatively flat surface across the top. So what we're going to do now is take the trucks off. Okay, removing the trucks is easy. They're just, the bolster pins are just a press fit. You just take your little screwdriver and we're going to pry them, or get my hand out of the way, we're going to pry them up from underneath and they'll just pop right off. And we want to save them because you may want to go back and use them again. I will probably prefer to change out to a different truck and coupler set. So now we have disassembled the truck or the car all the way down to its basic elements. So the next thing we need to do is take that metal weight out of there. Okay, we've got the weight loose, and actually that's a very light weight. So we're going to set that aside and discard that. Now you can see we have a completely empty hopper with some structural ribs in the inside, and we have the air slide portion of the discharge on the bottom. So what we're going to do now is make some marks and notations on it. This is a car we've already finished, so let me remove its top. And we can set this upside down and set this car next to it. And you can see where approximately we're going to be making our cuts. So we want to take a pencil, and we're going to, now the box that I have here I believe is 30,000 styrene. So we want to make our cut inside of that. So we're going to make a mark right around here and right there. So what we'll do is, at this point, now that we've made those beginning marks, we can put a set of trucks back on just temporarily. And we want to make sure, I don't know if you can see the mark, it's right there. We're going to make sure that the trucks can turn and not foul that area, and they do. So we're going to flip it over to the other side. And again, they clear quite well. So now what we're going to do is use our little square, and we're going to make the mark all the way across. So we have a cutting line to follow. Turn around and do that on the other side as well. Should be right there. Now the nice thing about this particular design, you can see that with some cars it's hard to determine how thick the outside wall is. You don't want to cut so far into the outside wall that you cut through it. But here you can see, because of the indentations, we know we're going to cut inside of that line right there. So we have to cut inside the wall on both sides of this. So we're going to make 4 cuts. We're going to cut across, cut lengthwise, and we'll be able to take the whole bottom portion out of the car. Now, for my taste, the Dremel Moto tool is one of the most versatile tools I've ever purchased. I've had one since like 1968. This is a little newer version of what I had before, and it's got multiple speeds, which is nice because like cutting plastic, this is just a regular cut-off disc. This, if at high speed, this will go right through the plastic, but it will also melt the plastic very badly. So we're not going to be able, since we have a round cutoff disc in square corners, we're not going to be able to make the full cuts all the way. And particularly when you're cutting this way, you have to be careful not to go down too far that you start cutting into the outside walls. So we're going to have 4 corners that we're going to have to cut out with an X-Acto knife, but this will make most of the cuts very quickly. So we're going to set it just about speed number 6, I think is what this is. You can hear it's on a relatively low speed. So we're going to make the first horizontal cut. Now, it's hard to do this without my hand being in the way, so we'll do this side. So you want to cut a little bit at a time. You don't want to cut too deep, or you're going to end up going through the walls. Now you can see on this slow speed, I'm getting through the plastic pretty quick, but I'm not melting it to death. So now we're going to make our long cut. So we're going to be inside the wall. And you don't necessarily have to be real close to the wall. We can always open that up with the X-Acto knife. Okay, so we got that one done. Now we're going to cut through the bottom here. Okay, we've made our first basic cuts. Okay, now what we're going to do is use an X-Acto knife. Well, I'm going to get this so you're kind of looking over my shoulder. And we're going to just start cleaning this up a little bit. See, I didn't melt it too much, but there's going to always be some melting involved. So we're going to want to cut some more of this. Apparently I didn't get all the way down through it, so we're going to wiggle the blade in there. So now we can start cutting a little bit more. Let's go this way. With the Moto Tool cuts in the bottom of the car, we're going to not get all the way through these reinforcing braces on the inside of the car. So we're going to take a nibbler, or not a nibbler, a Xuron cutting tool, and we're going to cut through those ribs right over where we cut, and that will free up the bottom of the car. Success! We've now completed the rough cutout of the bottom of the car, and so we can just throw this away. We don't need that anymore. And what we're going to do then is take the X-Acto knife and a file, and we're going to clean that up. After our cutting and filing, this is what it should look like. You notice there's no defects on the outside of either side of the car. You want a nice square edges on the front and the back. And on the inside, it's a little bit more difficult to see, but you want this filed smooth and flat. This will allow the abrasive block to slide up and down without hanging up on anything on the inside of the car. So that's where we are now. We've got the car more or less modified as far as being able to make the cuts. And now we're going to build the box underneath, and that will be on next time.